first keynote, why they are necessary and new way to boost scaling of solutions, which is one of the interesting topics. So I'm asking Örjan to join us. So Örjan, if you can turn on your camera and microphone, that would be perfect. Nice to see you. Can you speak?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Sounds really good. So what I'm going to do, let me just turn off it first, because I know that you are going to share us a keynote. So I'm also happy to see it, and welcome again. Would you like to start screen sharing?
Yes.
Perfect. I think everybody can see it now. I'm leaving the stage to you, and I'm going to ask you my questions as well. Good luck. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kaan. Thank you. Thank you very much to be here. And I just jump into this, so we have time for maybe a little bit of discussion later on. So first out here, just very shortly about WWF. It's a really big environmental association, maybe the biggest in the world. So there's a lot of people involved, as you can see here. Me, myself, I'm running a program which is called Climate Innovations, which the purpose is to really support innovations that can mitigate emissions and make adaptations for the climate change. So really try to get them to scale up in different ways. And I've been working as an entrepreneur myself within clean tech for over 10 years and co-founded a company, and I'm familiar with that part of the business. So, and I'm an engineering background from education. So why are we working on this matter at all? Well, WWF has one thing they look at every year is an index on how wildlife population, you can see here it's decreasing. Now it's been decreased 70% during a course of 50 years, which is not sustainable. Another way to look at it is the footprint that we make in the world, and we are surpassing that, I think, now with 1.6 globes that we would need to sustain our way of living globally. I think if we live everyone as a Swede, we would need four planets. So this is not good. And you are also familiar about the target that we want to set, that we have a 1.5 degree target. We hope that we don't end up in 2.0 degrees, which is much worse. And this is just a video on different the difference of them, and there's a lot of detail, so we should not look at it right now. So why are innovations, climate tech and social entrepreneurship necessary? Well, it is totally necessary to solve this challenge that we have, and that's because these innovations have a very high potential to reduce emissions, and we can take very large steps fast, and that is what we need to do. And this it also includes transformative change, so it's not just incremental change. And this is also what the IPCC says in the latest report, that innovations are really necessary to be able to halve the emissions to 2030 using different technology mostly, and some behavioral change. So we need to do that, and there is a lot of potential. This organization, Mission Innovation, has calculated that only in Sweden they have a list of innovations that can reduce emissions with about 1 gigaton a year if it rolls out in a fairly good way globally. And they are targeting on global scale 60 gigatons of innovation, so they're improving this list. And I just want to another thing with innovation is that it has exponential potential, and usually what is an exponential part? Well, usually it is funded on some quickly improving price performance ratio, like in this example with the solar cells, where you can see the growth of solar cells going up very, very quickly. And it's interesting to see that International Energy Agency and everyone else for that matter really failed in making a prognosis on how it will go further on. They were really having less expectations on this. And this is a very good case, and it's not everything working this well. But there are a lot of technologies that are exponential, like IoT, AI, 3D printing, and many others. So it could be good to be on the lookout for innovations and solutions that are based on other exponential solutions, so to speak, to really piggyback on that and get even more growth. I want to introduce you to something that you maybe already are very familiar with. I'm not sure about the audience here, but I think this is a good thing. The 3 horizons, it gives you perspective on where you are, which I think is helpful. If you look at this red line, which is a scenario where we have the business as usual, it's unsustainable, and we need to phase it out with time. Instead, we want to introduce the sustainable, viable future, the yellow line, to scale that up. That's where we want to go. But there are also in-between steps where I think most of us that work with innovation are, that it's middle steps towards the viable future. And those, sometimes you can get the question, well, your innovation, it's not sustainable either. I mean, it have some drawbacks and so on. And then I think it's important to see that they can still be very necessary to take sufficient steps at a time. And you also have to be aware of where you are here, and that you might have to pivot to get to the yellow line at some time. And just to mention some examples here, we can take food waste. That we waste a lot of food today, and in Sweden, at least, we have an app called Karma, which helps. It connects restaurants which have food leftovers, portions that they could not sell this day, and you can buy them more cheaply, and they are not going to waste. So that's a very good improvement. But still, we should not have a business model where you base it on something that's really bad, like food waste. So it's not, it's not the real future. So there's another company called Kiverdi, which I just learned about, and they are making proteins from matters in air, and that sounds very sustainable to me. But maybe there are generations to develop on that as well. But the point is, where are you now, and be aware of that. I think that's important. And also, when you try to phase out things that where you are today in the Horizon 1, you need to do that in a good way, in a respectful and a good way. People are losing their jobs and so on, and there's a big resistance. And there's a guy here in Sweden. He's a scientist working on transformative change. I'll let you read this, what he says. And I think that's also something good to keep in mind, that you might have to put effort also, not just to introduce your own innovation, also be aware of and look at how you phase out what you want to replace. That's something not to underestimate, basically. Okay, so that was the first part of why this what you're working with is very important. And now I want to show you something about, for us, a new approach on how to scale up innovations to boost that work. So this will be a very messy picture where there's a lot of things, but I think you recognize this kind of ecosystem, that you're an innovator, there are innovators with a team, their business model and so on, they have an innovation, and they get support from organizations like, I think, Hackathon, it looks like, and incubators with various things. And also impact investors, of course, with a lot of stuff. And that creates a push of innovations to the market, you could say. So that really gives that effect. That's what you want to do. So on the other side, you have the demand side, the demand owners, the customers, and the big customers are cities and the large corporations usually that we focus on. And they know their own market, they know how to procure and so on. But they don't know everything. Even if they're big, they don't have all capabilities. So we want to create what we call an activator that supports the demand side to be better at introducing innovations and new solutions and scale them up and so on. Because we think that's where the bottleneck is, to focus on that. And that creates a larger pool of innovations and solutions from the market. And we do that by three main activities, basically. We do something like we call the climate guide, where we try to help out with deepening the understanding on what is necessary to change in your city, for instance. What should you do, what should you not do, what should you prioritize? So that's a guiding work with deep climate knowledge. The other thing is to broker innovations, to find the innovations that can solve these challenges. And that's why we have a lot of collaboration with incubators and networks of innovators to really find these companies and present them to the customers. And we also need do a quality work there, where we look at the impact, as we assess the impact that the service or the product does. And this is I will come back to that, but it's important to do that so you really pick the best type of solution for you. Thirdly, we have this what we call the problem solver package, and that's where there is usually a lot of hang-ups in a city, for instance, to purchase solutions. There's a lot of risk avoidance. There's a problem with financing new unproven solutions. There's organizational hang-ups, many different type of problems that makes it more difficult to purchase something that's not off the shelf. So we want to work in that area and try to, because many of these hang-ups are kind of the same for every city or many corporations as well. So we want to be there and try to find ways and methods to resolve this better. And as WWF, we don't do this alone. We are cooperating with other companies and organizations which have more legal expertise and so on, because we don't have all those problem-solving capabilities or the capacity either. But this is what we think is a good supporting organization that is needed. And what we want to achieve is that we want to get a pilot project going and to validate, to get the innovator company and the customer to validate the technology or solution in some small scale part, so the risks are minimized, the cost and risks are minimized, and that can actually then bridge the value of death in that sense. So going back to how we actually do this in a better way than today, I want to show you this next slide, where it's a state Swedish government has an energy agency where they supported about 50 companies, which they deemed and looked at that were they having a large climate impact. And so they support them with finance and other ways, in different ways. And we then started to develop a framework for assessing these companies more deeply by calculating avoided emissions potential for these solutions that they have. So we went really deeply into that, and this is a result that we achieved. And the main message here is that there's a huge difference between the one with the best impact and the one with the lowest. And you could not really know this without doing the work to assess this more deeply. So right now, WWF, we are trying to work on getting these tools to do these assessments to be used more widely. for every kind of startup, and that impact investors use these tools and make sure that they are used, because without them we are kind of blindfolded. We can only, it's just a gut feeling more or less, or a better guess, but you need to do this work. And right now it's not that available. There are some consultant companies that do this. It can be based on LCA, life cycle analysis, but this mission innovation organization, if you know it, they are developing this work, and but they're not, you know, finished yet. There's no standard, and it's too expensive to do this for young companies. So we are working right now in a project where we want to make this more available and low cost, and having a light version, so to speak. Because I sometimes compare this with if you don't have this, it's like not making a economical prognosis of your company. It's just, it's not professional not to calculate what type of change or impact your product or service will make. So that is my ending message now, and I see that I was quite fast, but maybe that's good to get some time for all the any questions on this. Thank you.
I mean, I do have a lot of questions, so let's see if our guests are also adding something on the questions. But if you want, you can turn off the screen sharing and I can ask you my questions, Örjan. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Because you covered most of the things, like, because by design, what we are trying to do is we want to have like earlier stage startups. In earlier, I mean, most of them still have some kind of revenue. So it's not like idea stages, but scaling up, it is where you do the impact, because in every country, everywhere, you always have like maybe 500 to 1500 startups coming up every year, but the ones that are growing makes the biggest changes, like either like on social level, climate level, or financial level. So what I'm going to, I mean, it's always nice to see that POCs that matter, right? Because we want to make sure that our innovations are solving a problem. That was something that we've been seeing like last 10 years. In 10 years ago, people were really interested in seeing something new. Then we realized that not everything that is new is usable or impactful. So that was kind of our thing. So what I'm going to tell you or ask you is, like, you were talking about like some stakeholders, because you need scientists to write some papers on it or reports, which can also go to another stakeholder like governments. And those governments can change some kind of policies or encourage some kind of tax deductions or encourage investment in those kind of stuff. Where do you see the biggest problem still in those stakeholders? Like you have government, investors, entrepreneurs, and also like market itself creating the demand. So where can we improve the things so it can be more sustainable way of growing innovation all the time?
Yes. So I think that it's not there's a lot of supply of innovations, so that's not the problem.
Yeah.
I think the problem is for the customers, so to speak, and the big customers, the corporations and the cities, to really be able to bring them in, to dare to do it, and have the financing to do it, and everything. So there's a lot of difficulties there, and some of those difficulties are connected to policy that needs to change a little bit. But still, I think there are other things that, like in cities, for instance, at least in Sweden, that's where I know it best. There's a lot of verticals within the organization. So if there's an innovation part in the city, if they say that we should introduce this innovation, then the part of the city that owns all the, like the transport part, for instance, they maybe not at all that interested who can prioritize it. So there's a lot of hang-ups like this that we need to work on. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how well we work on the supply side. So And I think it's not that many hangups on the policy part. I think it's with the customers we need to help really.
Yeah.
That's our part of the analysis.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I feel as well. Like, I do love when the innovations actually address a big demand issue, because if there's a demand, whatever in the vertical of it, so the solution will be valuable. And you know, like, I'm sure that you are at the same place as well. We've seen maybe 1,000 pitch decks every year, like in different things. And it's always like, I'm trying to raise $2 million. One of them is saying that so that I can understand cancer cells 6 months previous to the general thing. And on the other side, somebody is asking like, I will solve the plastic issue problem, and somebody can come up and say that I will create a better dating app. So if you see from the resources perspective, it's the same $2 million. Like, of course, the risk is always different, but it is quite interesting. So hopefully we will create more demand, and I'm quite happy that today you joined us so we can actually share those graphs as well, because I think we need to spread those kind of insights from different parts of the world to other ones, so they can start their own work and maybe collaborate more, because this is how we feel that we can tackle this problem. Yeah. Thank you very much, Örjan.
Sure.
It's been great to have you, and hopefully we will get to work again, maybe with our startups, to the project that you are delivering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.